Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the B2B Revenue Leadership Podcast. Today, we're talking about relationships. And I think we make the mistake in both sales and marketing today, and especially in B2B, where we think of personas. And we have to think about that because we think of titles, roles, interests, what they care about, and that's all good. But what happens is when our approach doesn't work or we don't get the results that we want, instead of taking a step back and looking and trying to correct it, what we do is we do more of it. More cold calling, more spamming, more push, demand, squeeze page after squeeze page, holding back all the things that we know our prospects, our personas want. But instead of doing the right thing and connecting and giving, what we want to do is take because we got quotas, we got deadlines, we got KPIs to make. And the problem is we're not building relationships. And that's what we're going to talk to you about today with Bill Troy, the author of a book that's coming out soon called Clicksand. That we're getting stuck in the idiot trap. And we see this all the time. And, in sales, I saw it as soon as things don't go right, we do the wrong thing, but we do it 10 times more. Instead of doing the smart thing, taking a step back and going, where is the real value that we're bringing? How do we use the 80-20 rule? What's the 20% of the stuff that's getting us 80% of the results? And I talk a lot about this week on the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast, where I talk about how to 10x your win rate. Once you've got that person interested, once you've got them wanting it, what do? We mess up. We give in. We hear what we want to hear, and we do what we think is right, and we hope it's all going to work out, but it doesn't, and we don't learn our lesson. So check that out. Make sure your salespeople are all checking out that week's episode, 10x your win rate. But before we get into the interview, I want to thank Prezi. Prezi's partnered with me, and they're going to be big at Dreamforce this year. So make sure you stop by, see their booth. Also, stop by their office. It's 2 blocks from the Moscone Center, and the office is going to be open, so they're going to have visiting hours. It's a really cool place to be. I've been using the product now. It's so much better than, the slide-based approach where you can really tell a story and guide somebody through a journey from the beginning, the middle, and the end. That's what a story is, and really transform the way they view what you're doing, a way of communicating in the natural way that we think instead of slide after slide. That death by PowerPoint stuff has got to stop. But check it out this week, Prezi.com/brutaltruth. You get 2-week free trial. Check it out. And if you see them out at Dreamforce, make sure you tell them you heard about it on the B2B Revenue Leadership Podcast with Brian Burns. Let's get into the interview with Bill Troy. I think you're really going to like this, whether you're in marketing or sales. The principle exists. This is how smart people think instead of your gut reaction of doing what you know doesn't work. Let's get into the interview. Hey, Bill, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been focusing on.
Thanks, Brian. It's great to be here. So for the last 6 years, I've had a marketing company, Civilis Marketing, and we really focus on companies that need to build relationships that don't have a relationship process to go with their sales process, which I think are 2 different processes. But what's happening most recently is I've got a book coming out called Clicksand, and that's really what I'm talking to folks about, because Clicksand is a wake-up call. The subtitle is How Online Marketing Will Destroy Your Business and the Secret to Saving It. And in the book, I don't pull any punches. I call online marketing, the industry is full of pitchmen who are out there trying to sell things to make themselves rich, and they're damaging the companies that are buying it from them. And so that's what I'm up to these days.
What do you think the cause of that is? I think I've got some opinions on it. I'd like to hear yours.
Well, so yeah, I go through a couple of things in the book. The first is, every business is out there trying to sell and convince everyone to use whatever they're selling. And so in some ways, the online marketing guys are doing that too. But they're having a lot more success than I think a lot of other companies or industries do. And that's because there's just this general public feeling these days that online is great and computerized is great. And so I think a lot of business owners just kind of take at face value what they're told by online marketing people. And sometimes it conflicts with their values. It conflicts what they think is right in the world. But well, gosh, I guess everybody's doing it, so I should do it. So there's kind of like a tailwind that the online marketing folks have when they go in and make their pitch to a business, and the business kind of goes along with it. And then I think the businesses don't realize it's not just inert, it's not just neutral, it's potentially damaging to your business. And they think they're just kind of going to try it, but instead it really starts damaging the business. And so I think that there's just kind of a point in time here where the online marketing guys are able to sell things in a way that they probably won't be in the future and probably couldn't have in the past.
So what do you see like the top 3 things that they're doing wrong?
Right. So One of the biggest things, and so my background before starting Civilis Marketing, I have a market research company, Troy Research, and we've been doing online market research for 20 years for companies like Sony and Disney, and really helping them challenge assumptions and try to see what really is happening in the world. So that's the mindset I come from. I'm kind of a contrarian. I say, wait a minute, you just can't take things at face value. You have to really think about whether it really is true. And so with that market research background, I focus a lot on data. And data is a huge thing in online marketing. It's one of the things the online marketing pitchmen really put out there to prove how great it is. It's data driven. How can it be bad? The problem is that the data isn't presented fairly. Online market companies that are using online marketing are going into their dashboard and they're looking to see if their program is succeeding or failing and making progress. And the numbers are skewed for the advantage of the person selling it to them. I'll give you a quick example. One simple stat. Anybody who's doing email marketing, and by the way, when I say online marketing pitchman, I'm throwing it all in there. I'm saying it's AdWords and social media and content marketing and email marketing and all of it. But let's just take online email marketing for a sec. If you're doing email marketing, you've got some sort of open rate. Your email newsletter, let's say it's 30%, and you go into your dashboard, and if it goes up from 30 to 32, the little arrows are green and they're pointing up, and it's showing you're getting better, and you're sort of feeling good about your campaign. But what about the 70% of people who didn't like it? The numbers are positioned so that it looks good for the person who sold this to you. What about the 70% of people you made mad? What about the 10% of people who hated you so much they cursed your name out loud when they opened it because you tricked them into opening it with some stupid subject line? And they don't tell you that, and they don't show you that in the data. So the data is skewed in favor of the person selling this to you. And that's what's scary to me, is like, come on, this is just not fair. I mean, you're presenting it as though data is infallible when in fact you're totally skewing it to make it look good for yourself when you're selling it to these businesses.
Now, what I've seen is that marketing is incentivized to do the wrong thing. Meaning that, when I was in sales, and even the clients I see today, that they get credited on number of leads. As opposed to, the total revenue. And there's no clean way of doing it. So what do? They're incentivized to do the wrong thing, to get really what are contacts or email addresses, not people who are interested in their product or the problem that they solve.
Yeah, totally agree. And also, you start going down a path of volume, right? We need more of those. We need more.
Yeah, right? So let's do more dumb things.
Yes, right, exactly. Let's trick more people into opening an email. So one of the things that we really get into on the Civilis marketing side of things is really saying so what happens is that a lot of business owners will say, we need to be online. Okay, what just happened then is you just picked the tool before you had the problem identified. It's like saying, I need a hammer. And guess what? Everything looks like a nail. You have to start by going back and defining what you're trying to accomplish. And that's different for every business, because what you're trying to accomplish is build a relationship with the potential customer. And there's a checklist of things that every potential customer needs before they're comfortable buying from you. Sometimes it's a really short list, right? If you're just selling, some widget online that someone can look at quickly in a photo, they can spin around on the shopping cart, that might be enough of a relationship. But if you're asking them to make a multi-year, multi-million-dollar investment that potentially risks their career, if they make it wrong, they need a lot of things. They need to know they can trust you and you're going to be around, and et cetera. So start with that list of what the prospect needs and then figure out what tools will get that done. And online marketing often doesn't get the things done that you need to get done to make that sale.
And how do you get them to do that? I mean, when they're incentivized to do the opposite? I mean,
yeah. I'll tell you how we do it is we usually end up starting by talking to the owner of the business versus the marketing people, because the owner understands that. And frequently the owner is the one that has this little nagging thing in the pit of their stomach saying, this just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like the way we built the business to this point. And all of a sudden we're kind of doing these things that just kind of ethically, I don't know, they kind of make me itch a little bit. And so the owner is the one that has often sort of given over control of the marketing positioning of the company to somebody who's younger, who knows the way things are done these days, or an outside firm that's positioned themselves as some sort of mega expert. And they've questioned it, and they have a little, nagging thing in the back of their mind. And we go in and say, wait a minute, you know how your business works. You know how your industry works. You probably have spent, 20 or 30 or 40 years yourself knowing your customers. Don't just let someone else say that's all wrong. Let's build it the way you know it's correct. And so we actually work with business owners a lot more than marketing people.
Yeah, I think you'd have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Or, well, I guess the sales people, wouldn't
Yeah.
have time, or that, there's certainly people who are feeling pain, and what they want to do is, how do we fix this pain? And I think, people aren't understanding that no one's sitting around waiting for you to send them an email.
Oh, yeah.
Or a pop-up ad, or
Yeah.
some piece of content that they don't care about, that talks about you and not them.
Oh, it's so funny. We spend a lot of time with people just saying something like, okay, just take what you just did digitally, and I want you to go do that in person to someone. I want you to, at a conference, walk up and say what you just put in that email, and then stand there and wait for that person to look at you like, are you insane? I mean, you would never do that in person, because you'd get like some feedback from another human saying, that's ludicrous what you just said to me. It's really selfish what you just said to me, right? I mean, you're not even caring about me as a person. Yet online, you don't get that negative response from someone if you do something bad. You just, kind of see, oh, they opened. Okay. Or they clicked. So we're good. So there's also kind of a filter that the online stuff puts in the way. So you really can't see what's happening on the other end when you send that stuff.
Well, I do the same with salespeople, because salespeople are doing the same thing, just personal, more personalized, more one-to-one than one-to-many. What they're doing is,
yeah,
and they all do it, and I almost have a difficult time getting the managers to understand. No one is sitting around waiting for your pitch. They've got 10, 20 pitches a day. You coming up with a better pitch will increase it 1%, but what you want to do is increase it 30, 40, 50, 100%. And well, how do we do that? And I go, well, how do you do it in the real world?
Right.
Yeah. If you want to go talk to somebody at a party and sell them insurance, you don't go up and hand them your business card and start talking about whole life. You go up and you say, hey, this is some good food, huh? How's the kids doing? Did you run into traffic on the way over here? You break the ice and you start a relationship.
Totally 100% with you. In fact, so what we're doing is we're just trying to build for our clients the online digital version of that. And it goes to exactly what you just said. It's a triangle, right? You don't build a relationship with someone by liking them and them liking you. You build a relationship because you both like a third thing. It's a triangle. Yep. You like the band, you like the food, you like the same sense of humor, you like fly fishing. That's how you build a relationship with people and build rapport with people. And that's the kind of stuff that is completely missing from any of the online marketing programs, because like you said, they're just talking about themselves all the time.
Yeah. So how do you do that? I mean, how do you do it in kind of a systematic, proactive way that is effective?
Well, so a couple of things that we say to clients. First is process and automation are not synonyms. Most business people immediately think of automation when they think of a process, but you don't. You can have a process without automating it. A process is just consistent, predictable behavior that's going to happen over time. So you could processize remembering to reach out to someone and telling them you're thinking about them, right? You could processize watching for people to do something you could say something nice about. You could heck, we all process. We also have a process for remembering our anniversaries and our birthdays and all kinds of special things for people in our lives. And we still reach out to touch them about it. So then the second piece of that is you processize thinking about what they need and thinking about what they're thinking about. So you, instead of using LinkedIn to skim off a bunch of people with a certain title to send them your sales pitch, use LinkedIn to look and see what charities people follow and see what their alma mater was. I mean, if you're not sending some sort of note to everyone who went to a major college in March, when March Madness comes around, about how their team's going to do in the tournament, and that you've got their team going to the Sweet 16 in your bracket, you're missing huge opportunities. It's simple as that. You know that they care about where they went to school and they're watching their own team in the tournament. You could build rapport with them. So it's things like that. You processize that, and guess what? Magically, you start having people like you.
Now, what do you think of all this AI that's being applied to personalization and marketing? And do you think it's going to help or hurt, or is it just going to be depending on whose hands it's in?
Well, yeah. So the last few words you said there are key. I think whose hands it's in, because I don't think any of the tools are inherently negative. And data is not inherently bad. And AI is not inherently bad. It's who's going to use it. And what I see already is that we're already going down the path of just trying to use AI to trick people more, right? I mean,
a smarter way of tricking them.
Yeah, just better tricking, right? We're going to get them to open it even more because, something they don't want even more. So if that's what you're going to do with it, it's not going to work any better. So it just depends on who's using the tool. That's really the key.
Yeah, because a lot of this stuff's starting to feel like those phishing emails that you get every morning where you're like, oh, your credit card has been exceeded. And you always have to look at who sent this. And it was like Mike at phishing.ru, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, sometimes businesses start to go down that path, whatever trick we have to use to get people to click and open, right?
Right.
Like,
they just put RE before it.
Right.
And you're like, what? I don't remember this. And
I love watching all the tricks people use all the time to try to get me to open stuff. My current favorite is the word sincere. Seems to be, obviously, some consultant somewhere has told them to put the word sincere in the subject line, sincere outreach to you, and apparently that's working for other people because I'm getting emails with that in the subject these days. Yeah, it's just whatever trick they can come up with, but in the end, what happens is you're just damaging relationships, so you just can't tell because your dashboard doesn't show you that.
So, I mean, if the pitch is dead, so we have to focus on this third thing. Is that your recommendation?
Yeah, I think the pitch isn't dead. The pitch is appropriate when the pitch is appropriate.
Yeah.
You can't pitch all the time. You have to build relationships with people. And if they need to know, for example, that they can trust you, that you're honest, that you have integrity, and that you're going to be there for the long haul, you have to figure out a way to show that. And telling them that doesn't matter. You have to actually just demonstrate that. So many times we find businesses build relationships in some other environment, Rotary or, at church. And it's like they think that's not scalable because, well, gosh, I can't just join Rotary for 20 years to get more relationships.
That's not very effective. I got a quota. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Oh, I got to drive to Rotary in 6 cities now. But when you break it down, you find out what Rotary did, for example, in that one relationship that may have worked that way, was you showed them that you're a good, solid human being and you care about other people and you're not just everything isn't just about you. And so you just have to find other ways to demonstrate that to people if that's what's important to them. So it's a matter of figuring out, who's important and what they need and, how that gets done. And some of it's online, some of it's offline. One of my favorite things I just got the other day that I've been joking about with our team all week is I got an email newsletter like we all get every day from a company that had the headline story in their email newsletter was how they treat every customer as an individual. This is an email newsletter they sent to 3,000 people.
One at a time.
Hello? Hello? Right. Yeah. Oh, but they put dear me, they put my name in it. So that shows I'm an individual.
That's personalization.
Yeah, right. So that's where your AI stuff starts to go, right? But my joke is, well, when are they going to actually start treating me as an individual? Once they know I've got some money to give them, boy, I'm really hoping to do that, to give them lots of money, then they're going to treat me special. So they're just proving they basically don't care about me. And I think that's the thing is you just got to make sure you're really living your values and just demonstrating those.
I think it's that caring, but I think it's also that kind of process that people go about, especially when in the B2B space, what I say is 99.9% of your total addressable market doesn't even know they have the problem you solve. So you have to kind of like bring the problem out, and this is a slow, gradual process.
Yes.
Instead of trying to find the needle in the haystack, you try and get the haystack kind of magnetized towards you.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, you can either just slam everybody and hope 1% of the people or 1/10 of 1% of the people have the problem right this moment,
yes.
Or you can try to build it over time because they will have the problem if it's service you provide. It's just a matter of when, and then that's one of the things too that I think is that mismatch we talked about a minute ago, with relationship process versus sales process. What you're talking about too in a B2B space frequently is that you have to have a relationship before you'll get a chance to pitch, right? They have to know you're solid, reliable, going to be here, and all those sort of soft things about your business. And you can't demonstrate that once it's time for them to buy something. You have to have already demonstrated that in the past. So making sure you have a process to do that is key, or you'll never get the chance to pitch, and you can try to make that up in volume all you want, but never going to get there.
Yeah, because I still hear the old school sales trainers talking about all you have to do is come up with a more compelling pitch. And I'm like, well, first of all, you're not going to get them on the phone. So then you're going to leave it in voicemail, which is just verbal spam.
Yep. Yeah.
And what do they do? What do they blame if it's not effective? Oh, the pitch isn't as accurate. We got to sit down and go through it again. And I'm like, no, they don't know. They don't know you. They don't like you. They don't trust you. They don't believe you.
So totally 100% agree. And they probably don't need you right now. So you're trying to make all that happen because you need them. And that's a one-sided thing that isn't a relationship. And basically you're just, stalking them. And that doesn't usually go well.
And the big thing now is bring insights. Bring something that they don't know. And it's like, well, how do you know what they know and what they don't know if you don't know them? It's like, your insights. It's another silver bullet approach instead of, hey, it's a human being. Guess what? They're not going to listen until they know you, like you, or trust you. And how do you build that in sales? And I teach that to salespeople, and they say, oh, this is slower. But if it's 10 times more effective, it's faster.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing, the slow piece. So that's kind of where we end up talking to the business owner, because frequently the owner understands that they built the business over time, that they built the relationships over time. But sales is frequently only incentivized to close something today. So what do you do if it takes 2 years to build a relationship? In fact, I'll give you a great example. We have a client that's in the business insurance space. And they have a cold calling program where they call businesses and they say, when is your insurance up? We'd like to give you a quote when it's time. And they get the date, right? So November 2019, whatever. And they put that in their database. And then they do nothing with that person until October of 2019. And then they just descend on them, right? Because now it's time. It's time. They're ripe. We can try to get them for November. And all of a sudden they try to build a relationship. They pound them with all this sort of positioning and sales and marketing, all this sort of stuff. When in fact they had 2 years to build a relationship before that date, and they didn't. Yep. And that's what a lot of times the business owner understands that the sales team may not understand, because the sales team isn't incentivized to understand that. They're incentivized to close stuff this month. So the business usually needs a process to supplement what the salespeople are doing. And then hopefully this relationship process allows that salesperson to get in the door in November 2019. But you can't do anything otherwise. You can't just suddenly in November 2019, boom, we got a magic email that's going to make it happen.
Yeah, and then they complain, we lost on price or to no decision. You lost because they're not paying attention to you.
Yeah. By the time you called them back, because it was finally time for you to get something out of the deal, they forgot who you were. What? Why are you calling me again?
So can you give us a case study, maybe a B2B case study of one of your clients that you've kind of helped through this process?
Yeah, I'll give you another quick example. We have another client that is so that was one what we do, the business insurance, as I mentioned. What we do at Civilis for that company is that we work on the relationship. There's the human interaction relationship, not selling, because there's no selling that can be done until that November 2019 date. We work for that 2-year period in between to help them build a personal relationship with that person. And some of it's funny and some of it's goofy and some of it's personal, but that's like regular stuff, in regular life. So by the time, it's like if you wanted to take them to golf or you want to get them involved in your charity, just regular human being stuff, so that by the time November 2019 comes around, they're ready to go. We do those programs for companies, either help them build them and consult them on executing, or sometimes we even just execute it, right? It's like, hey, it's time to send a note to so-and-so because their alma mater is building a new stadium and, whatever, right? So, and then there's another quick example I can give you of a software company we work for. They have a software product that they sell to large consumer brands, and they're a small company, but they sell it to really large consumer brands we'd all know. And it's a product they really can only sell once to that company, which is their own issue they need to work on. But let's just say that's never going to change, and they can only make the sale once to each major consumer brand. And so they came to us and they said, well, we need new clients because we need to find new brands all the time to buy this from us. And we said, okay, I get that. What are all the companies you've sold it to in the past, and you keep up with them? Well, no, because we've already sold it to them. We need to work on new ones. And I said, well, wait a minute. You have relationships with not just the company, but with the people. How many of the people at the consumer brands that have bought this from you in the past have moved on to some other consumer brand that hasn't bought it from you? And they had no idea.
Right.
We went back and looked. It was hundreds, because it's very transient, right? People go from, P&G to Disney and over to Coke, and all of a sudden they realized they probably had 1,000 relationships with people that already had bought from them, so they knew the advantage of the product, they knew everything, they loved it. They just hadn't followed up with those people, and they'd totally just thrown them away, and they wanted to chase some new campaign with complete strangers that they'd never met before. So that's another one where all of a sudden, wow,
Yeah.
there's huge value there from a sales standpoint with relationships that you've already thrown away in the past. So that's another one that they just suddenly had a huge turnaround because of that.
And that's it. And I think the software business is starting to understand this now that they've moved to a SaaS model where it's a monthly or an annual contract. And what they find out, if they're not supporting and helping the client and getting them to use the product, that they don't renew. And if they wait that year and say, oh, it's time to renew, and they go, oh, well, we haven't used this. And especially when you have complete visibility into how active they are with the product, that you could build that into your sales model and your support model and your marketing model.
Absolutely. And then the people too. In that case, specific users, the person that bought it from you and the high level users, and you can. So what we would bolt onto that is to say, and watch for those people to go to another company. Of course, you have to assume they were liking it where they were before, but when they move somewhere else, and I'll tell you another little secret weapon we use all the time with our clients. Watch for a high level person at a client of yours to leave that client and be on the beach for a while, or be in between gigs for a while, whether they got fired or whether they just resigned and decided to do something new. While they're out of work, and if it's an EVP of a large corporation, they're going to end up to be an EVP of another large corporation after they take 3 months and spend the summer with their kids or whatever. Reach out to them while they're not working. Yeah. And you talk about building a relationship, because nobody wants to talk to them right now because they can't buy anything. So all your competitors are not calling them. And they know you're reaching out to them because you just care about them as a person, because they know that they can't give you any money right now. You do that, and guess what happens when they get that next EVP gig? That's one of the relationship kind of things that we help build in. Talking about a process again, you could watch for people to become. Just use LinkedIn, watch them to become unemployed and in between gigs, and man, huge opportunities with that sort of stuff if you processize that.
That's excellent. Hey, I really appreciate you joining us today to tell us some more about the book and when it's coming out and how do people learn more about you.
Sure. The book, we've got a website about the book. The title is Clicksand, how online marketing will destroy your business and the secrets to saving it. So it helps you figure out what's wrong and maybe how to escape that trap. And we put a page up for your listeners. It's clicksand.net, C-L-I-C-K, sand, S-A-N-D.net, /B2B revenue. And I put the chapter up there that really goes through in detail all the damage that happens to businesses that fall for this and don't think about what's happening to them. And then also there's a coupon where you can get a discount for the book when it comes out. And lastly, if anything we've talked about here resonates with someone and they want to have a conversation about this relationship type topic, they can schedule a call with me. So I really happy to be on. I'm thrilled to be with you today, Brian.
Excellent. Thanks, Bill. I hope you got a lot out of it. I think I even have to be reminded myself, because when I see things not working, instead of doing more of what doesn't work, I take a step back and I go, what is a smarter way? What is a brighter way? What would a genius do? What is working for other people? What if I doubled down on quality instead of quantity? And what if I just figured out the right time of doing things and really connecting up with the people that really matter and focusing more energy on the people that you get the 80% of your revenue through? So please check that out. Also, check out covideo.com. Covideo is a partner of the podcast, and what they do is enable you to use video in your sales and marketing activities. Because video is the new email. Email is kind of it's overdone right now. We got to do it smarter, and the way to do it smarter is through video. It's much more engaging. You can trace things. Much like if you're sending a presentation with Prezi, you want to trace it. With Covideo, you can trace it. Also, check me out on LinkedIn. Connect up with me on LinkedIn. If anybody would like to be on the show or a topic you'd like me to cover, just send me an email either through LinkedIn or briangburns@me.com. Also, all your salespeople, I'm giving away my book, The Maverick Selling Method, in PDF format for writing a review of this podcast, the B2B Revenue Leadership Podcast. Just write the review on iTunes or whatever player you have, and then take a picture of it. screen save, and then send that to me at briangburns@me.com, and I'll send you the PDF version of the book, the whole book, not just a piece of it. Also, check out Bill Troy on LinkedIn. Make sure you're connecting up with him and look for his book when it comes out, Clicksand. And he's giving away a free chapter. Just follow him at his company site, and make sure you tell him you heard it on the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast. We'll see you next time.